It's time to talk about Reading Plans 2024. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is my series plans for 2024. Today I have got 10 series for you with one sort of wild card that I'll be planning on starting and maybe finishing in 2024, but don't hold me to that. Before we jump into the list today, make sure you check in the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. Now, I've noticed a few people starting to put out their 2024 reading plans. I've been working on my 2024 reading plans for what feels like forever. I basically started planning next year in June of 2023. So most of you know by now I am a planned reader. So my 2024 is basically all booked out. Get it? Booked out. Sorry, I still have COVID, so like the delirium is still here. Ignore me. I have also been picking up things on a whim recently, not a whole lot, but usually, well, as of the last few months, about one book a month, I'll just pick out because I want to read it. And I'm sort of letting myself do that. So I do want to put in a disclaimer. These are not set in stone that I will definitely complete all of these series. These are the ones I do want to start and prioritize in 2024 with the aim of finishing at least 5 of them. So I've got 10 on the list. I would like to finish at least 5 of them, and the 11th one, or the wild card, is sort of a long-running series of shorter books that I would like to use as a palate cleanser and something I really enjoyed many years ago but never continued on with. Now, you know me, I'm a self-pub and indie guy at the heart of it, so a majority of these do fall into the self-pub and indie sphere. I have 8 self-pub/indie series that I want to get to in 2024, with 2 and the wildcard being traditionally published. I do have quite a lot of traditionally published series on my shelf and in Perth that I'm interested in, but my heart does lie in the indie community, so that is always going to be my priority. Maybe as we move into 2025, 2026, I'll try and work through some of those backlist fantasies, but that's sort of where the buddy reads come in for me. I tend to read those traditionally published series when I've got a buddy to do so. Now, this series of videos will be split into 3. I'll be doing this one first because this is what everyone's really curious about. What am I reading in 2024? What do I want to start? What's fresh? What's new? I will also be doing one on 10 books that I want to read in 2024 that are not part of a series, or if they are, I'm only planning on reading the first one. And also the final one will be series continuations and buddy reads that I'll be doing in 2024. All right, you've had enough of me just crapping on. Let's jump into the series. We'll be starting off with the indie series that I would like to pick up in 2024. In no particular order, let's go. The first series on this list that I have here is Pacts, Arcane, and Otherwise. This is by Joanna Macy Juska, and I really hope that I pronounced that correctly. I saw a book by this author come out on an indie release list earlier this year, I believe in 2023, and it made me super curious as to what else this author has put out. This is a 4-book series, and it starts with By the Pact, which I'll put up here. All the series covers I'll put up there. It says, High Mages lied. Varanth, the demon who destroyed the continent, is still alive, and it's up to their former student to expose the truth, even if it means another cataclysm. It says, plots and schemes, power and means, sometimes the price of victory is choosing which friend will die, but when you only have one friend, the choice is easy, ? This has a beautiful cover. It's a nice short series. Each book comes in at around 300 to 400 pages, and you'll find that with a lot of these series on these lists, they are a little bit shorter than your chunky fantasy series where you've got 700 to 800 pages per book. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I've been curious about this author for a little while, and I'm hoping to kick this one off fairly early next year. The next series is one I'm very, very excited for. I wanted to wait until there were a few books in the series. I'm not sure how many books are currently planned, but I know the 4th book is coming out in 2024, and I'm planning on reading at least the first 4. This is P.L. Stewart's A Drowned Kingdom, starting with book 1, A Drowned Kingdom. I really love the way that PL talks about books and how he reads critically. Some of his favorite authors also happen to be my favorite authors. I adore Jenny Wirtz, and I know that he is also a big fan. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how those influences have come into his own writing, and also just seeing what he can do. I believe this author has so much power in their words and an amazing story to tell just through life experiences in a fictional lens, and I cannot wait to start with The Drowned Kingdom. The next one that I have up is Darkblade. This is by Andy Peliquin. Now, this is one I will not be completing in 2024 because it is a long, continually running series, and it is the chonkiest series that I have here on the list. I believe this one I'm got scheduled to start quite late in 2024, but it is on the list, and I think I've got the first 3 or 4 books on the schedule here. So I love assassin fantasy. I love rogue-like characters who have had to come from nothing. Andy is such a cool guy. He's given me some writing tips for my own writing, and I just think he's a wonderful presence in the indie community. So I'm really curious to see how this book lands with me. I know Mark Timoney, a good friend of mine, really enjoyed the first book, so I'm looking forward to jumping into this one. It says, all Enviromists know the legend of the Hunter, relentless, immortal, death-walking, the greatest assassin who ever lived. And honestly, that's enough for me. I am so in. Moving on from there is a series I didn't know if it would be for me, but after reading the author's latest release, I think I'm going to enjoy this for entertainment's sake, and that is Hybrid Helix by JCM Byrne, starting with Wistful Ascending, a superhero space opera for grown-ups. Now, I recently read Partial Function, and I had a fantastic time with it. It was highly entertaining, the writing was accessible, it was humorous, but not in a way that I hate, like Terry Pratchett. Sorry, Terry Pratchett fans, I could just never get on board with the humor, but I really, really loved the way that JCM Byrne was able to incorporate quite serious conversations with that humor in Partial Function. So I'm very much looking forward to jumping into Hybrid Helix. Again, these books I think are, I was going to say fairly short, but I've just looked at the page count of book 1 and it says 415 pages. So maybe they're not as short as I thought they were. I already have the first one on audio. I think I'm starting the audio of the first book in January next year, and then I'll keep going on with this series throughout the year. The next one I have on this list is, I have to look at the name to see if I can pronounce it correctly, and I already apologize in advance. This is the Vyshivka Trilogy by E.C. Greaves, starting with Daughter of the Beast. Now, I was wowed by these covers when Spiffbo 9 came around. It was in one of my favorite covers. It's a book that I'm super interested in reading. This series is says steeped in Slavic myth, and I'm in. It's giving me Ascara Helsine vibes. I believe this is a finalist for SPF BO9, which means it's gotta be good. E.C. Greaves is an absolute banger of a human being in the interactions that I've had with them over on Twitter or X or whatever it is, and I cannot wait to jump into this series. And, you know, another under 400-page series of books. Love that for me, and it's a trilogy, so nice and short. Looking forward to getting this one under my series belt next year. The first audio series that I will be putting on this list is The Keeper Origins by J.A. Andrews, starting with Dragon's Reach. You can get all 3 of this original trilogy for 1 credit on Audible, and I've gone ahead and done that. The tagline says, "The truth is neither plain nor simple." I have heard fantastic things about J.A. Andrews and this series. Some people say it is one of their favorites, and I'm hoping that it will be one of my favorites after I read this one. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I've got these all scheduled and planned out in 2024. If things do get bumped and moved around, it's generally not audiobooks. If I've got audiobooks scheduled in, I'll pretty much stick to that. And that's where a lot of extra books will come in for me as well. If I have extra audio time, I'll generally put in maybe a series continuation that I haven't gotten to yet. And yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to this and seeing if it becomes a favorite of mine as well. Next up, we do have one that's a carryover that I meant to start this year that I didn't, and that is A Pattern of Shadow and Light by Melissa McPhail. Now, this is, I believe, it was a 7-book series. 5 books are currently out. The author has unfortunately passed away, and there are people who are sort of looking at ways to continue the story, whether they're going to. But I've heard this series is fantastic and it's well worth it to read what is out anyway. These are quite chunky books. This is another chunky series. I have the audio for the first book. This is, I can never pronounce this correctly, omniscient narration, where it's very much tell and not show. And I tend to find that I respond to that style of writing better on audio, so I have picked up the first book on audio. I've got the rest on my wish list. That Audible credit each month will just come and get dedicated to that once we start this off. And I believe I've actually got this penned for January for the drive to Perth, because it's a nice long audiobook to get my teeth sunk into on a 48-hour drive. So we'll be doing that one. So this is a carryover, and I do currently have all 5 books on the plans for next year. The next one I have on this list is another trilogy, and the books are under 400 pages each, which is fantastic. This is the Crimson Church Trilogy by Ryan G. Beatty. Not only are these covers fantastic, here's what got me. When a religion arms its missionaries, then it's not a church, it's a cult. I don't need anything else. I love exploration of religion, particularly in fantasy settings, because a lot of it derives from medieval times, Catholicism, and whatnot. And I just really love the exploration of religion and faith in anything that I read, really. But in fantasy, it just hits different for me. I am very much looking forward to jumping into Ryan G. Beatty's work. There is another series he has completed, which has 5 books. If I like this series, I might just dive into that one as well. Who knows? Which brings us to the end of my indie series to pick up in 2024, and we now have the 2 Trad Pub series, which I would like to get to, both trilogies, and then one I'll be using as a palette cleanser, which has many books. We'll get to that in a minute. So the first one I'm picking up is off the recommendation of Mark Timoney, and that is The Echoes of Empire by Mark T. Barnes, starting with The Garden of Stones. Again, a series I've heard nothing but fantastic things for. I know Mark has really, really enjoyed them, and my Mark, not author Mark. There's so many Marks. And I have them on audio already, so I'm looking forward to jumping into this one. It's a series I'll be doing on audio next year. I really don't know too much about it, so I'm looking forward to jumping in and seeing what this one is all about. And the last one that I have on the list before I jump into the palette cleanser series is Rook and Rose by M.A. Carrick, starting with The Mask of Mirrors. I've been really curious about this series since I saw Mask of Mirrors come out, and I feel like that was a while ago. The series is now complete, so I thought, why not put it on the list? It's an adult fantasy LGBTQIA plus friendly series, and I need to be putting some of those on my TBR so that I can talk about them in the queer corner when they come up. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I've heard it's quite political, and I do love a politically dense fantasy, so I'm very much looking forward to this one. And with a rating of over 4 with 6,000, nearly 7,000 ratings on Goodreads, it's gonna be a good time for me. I know my friend Esme really likes this one, so normally if she likes something, I'm just a continuation of that personality, and I also enjoy it. The last one that I'll mention here today is a palette cleanser series. I started this series, I probably first read it when I was 14, I want to say, when I first started getting into the library. Side story, personal story, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My parents had me very young, they were teenagers, and we had to find cheap things to go and do. They had 2 kids, they were in their early 20s, so the library was one of the things that we could go and do. I picked up one of these books when I was in high school, the first book of this series, and I fell in love. It's probably one of the things that got me into fantasy. I did not realize it's a 14-book series, and I'm talking about the Noble Dead Saga by Barb Hendy and J.C. Hendy. Now, you might know Barb Hendy, who's done some writing for the Forgotten Realms occasionally. She's also done a whole bunch of writing for other big series as like co-author or as like a guest author for things like that. I adored book 1, Dampier, or Dampier, however you want to pronounce it, to the point where I've now read it 3 times. And not being a rereader, That's saying something. I've read the second book, The Thief of Lies, I think it's called, twice, and I've never continued on. So I own the first 4 books. I would like to at least read the 4 books I own so I can continue to collect them. And I think this may be a favorite series for me of all time. That's a big call, only having read 2 books, but I just know that I absolutely adored book 1 3 times. So this is what I will use as a palette cleanser series if I'm looking for something to break up what I'm reading. If I've got some room happening, I'll likely reach for one of these. Those are the series that I'm looking at starting in 2024. I do have a couple more of these, which I will be putting on a buddy read video, like I mentioned earlier, so watch out for that one if you're interested in the buddy reads that I'll be doing in 2024, or continuations and things like that. What are you picking up next year? What is the top 3 series that you would like to read? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.